Yeah, so I know. These videos are supposed to be 3.5 minutes. This one's going to be longer, so you might want to get a cup of coffee, because we're going to talk about your career. And that's worth a lot more than 3.5 minutes, I think. My name's Schaefer, and I'm the CEO of Human Factors International. And I've been employed in the UX field since 1977. And I've been teaching people how to do UX work since 1982. I've hired hundreds and hundreds of people, done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of UX work. So I think I've got a few things to share with you. And I'm head of Human Factors International, which is the largest trainer in the UX space and the largest certifier of people in the industry. So you might want to pause, get some coffee, because we're going to talk for a bit. First of all, you're thinking about a career in the UX space, or you may be thinking about how to give people skills for your organization so they can work in the UX field. The UX field is a great field to be in. It's growing exponentially, and it is a field where what we're doing is taking what we know about how people function, how they process information, taking what we know about what people are motivated by, what gets them to convert, and applying that to building systems and equipment that fit with the way people live. And in fact, I would say that we're really crafting a new world. So the way that people function, we're not evolving from a Darwinian point much. So our genetics aren't going to change the world, but our technology is. And so the UX people are the ones that say, how can we take those powerful technologies that are becoming available, and how can we make them work well for people? We're crafting a new way of being. It's also a field which I think is great to be in because it's robot proof. So if you're talking about going into coding, or you have people who are working in programming, those jobs are becoming less and less, because you just go to GitHub and you pick a module of software, and yeah, there's still programming work, but it's much, much less. UX work is very much about understanding people, understanding contexts, being creative. It's the kind of thing that robots actually don't do very well. And so while, yes, there may be robots that help us, as a field we're starting to use more and more technology, still it's a great career to be going into. And I think for your entire lifetime, you can rely on a continuous stream of interesting problems. And UX field is full of interesting stuff. I mean, we do so much in terms of building in different domains and different industries and different technologies. So it's a great field, it's an interesting field, and a field where you get to help the world. And that's, in fact, at one point our tagline was UX for a better world, because that was, and still is, core to our field. Now our tagline is user experience for a complex world, and that's because as the technologies come in, the world is becoming more and more difficult for people to deal with. And so we're the ones who help integrate that and make it work for people. So if you're thinking about being in the field, if you're thinking about training people for the field, the question really is, what do you need to know to be effective? And I'll tell you, it's really true that there are a lot of people who just kind of put UX on their resume and think that that'll work. And in the past it has worked. There are people that'll give you 12 minutes on YouTube about how to pretend to know about UX in a job interview. But the reality is people are becoming more and more sophisticated in hiring. They know what to ask for. And the truth is that if we're going to be in the field, we should know how to do the work. So how do we get skills in that field? One of the things that we've done is look at the UX profession and say, what do you really need to know? And we have a model of the knowledge that you need to do UX work. It's not all the theory, it's what you need to do the work now. And that model has been the basis of us creating our certification program. So the Certified Usability Analyst, the Certified User Experience Analyst, those two certifications are the largest held certifications in the field. And if you look online, you'll see organizations asking for people with that certification in their job postings. And that certification was built on a model that says, this is what you really need to know. Now, if you go to a university, and I believe university programs are great, and I love to see people getting at least a master's degree working in the field, it takes time. It gives you some deep knowledge, but there's an awful lot you will get in a university program that isn't really what you need to know now. Part of that is because they want to give you more context, and that's good. So knowing a lot about statistics, it's a good thing, but honestly, you're not going to run a lot of multivariate statistics in your average UX program. The other thing is that you end up getting presented with a lot of depth around what particular professors are interested in. So I've got one person I'm mentoring, and she's gotten a lot about type fonts. Well, yeah, you need to know something about type fonts, but her program is more about type fonts than she needs to do the work now. So yes, everybody who's a heavy professional in the field has areas of interest that they're particularly excited about. And when they go in as professors, they want to concentrate on that. But it doesn't say, this is what you need to know, and I'm just going to give you that. So I like people to get master's degrees, get PhDs, it's all good. But be aware that you will get maybe things you don't need right now, and maybe not all the things you do need. You also may pick up some bad habits, like in universities, people write badly, like all flowery and lots of things that you don't really want to use in business. But anyway, you can get over that. We did the certification using the same model of what people need to know. We also built our training programs. And there are 2 sets of training programs, 4 classes each. Each one is 2 weeks, so it's really a month of training. What have we got in that? So if you want to do UX work, we have the Certified Usability Analyst exam, and also a set of training courses that correspond to it. Now, you do not need to take those training courses to take the exam. The certification is not a test of whether you took our training. That would be very unfair, and yeah, people are doing that now, but that's not a proper certification. You can call us up and go, I want to take this certification exam and you can pass it. Many people do just by reading or taking university programs. But the CUA says, what do you need to know in order to make stuff easy to use? And that's actually a hard thing. We say in the industry that it's easy to be hard and hard to be easy. So it takes a lot of hard work to make something easy. You think, oh, just make it simple. No. It's much more sophisticated than that to do that well. So what is it that we have in that program? The first thing we do is a course that I think is really cool. It's a relatively current course. We came up with it just in the last year or two as a new version of it. It used to be more in-depth on research, and that wasn't that good. But what this is understanding the fundamentals of how people function. Because none of it is the way you think. So our foundations course teaches you how people see, how people remember, how people move, and how people decide. And none of those things work the way you think. Like you think that your eye works like a camera, but that's not true at all. You're constantly scanning the room with your eye, and there's just a little spot on the back of the eye called the fovea centralis, and you're constantly moving that around the room. It subtends like 2 degrees of the overall visual angle. If you hold your arm out at full length and look at your thumbnail, that's the part covered by the fovea. And you compile a picture in your head. And that picture is processed by 30 different areas in your brain. And so you definitely don't want to think about it or design as if it's just a camera. So you learn about those fundamentals. Then there's user-centered analysis that says, how do you understand a user population and what they do? And it's not trivial. We used to have a button we would give out to people that said, know thy user, for they are not you. Because users are very diverse. And if you design for yourself, you'll always be wrong because you know too much. So we have to be able to understand, model who the users are, what they do, how they model things in their heads. And that kind of analysis, and that's a 3-day class, gives you the foundation on how to do that. Now, if you're doing UX research, that's kind of your core class. But I recommend that you do all these classes if you're even doing the foundation stuff. Because if you're doing research, you need the foundations class in order to interpret what people are doing, to understand more. And you need the design and other classes to be able to make good recommendations. So we have foundations, how people function. We have UCA, user-centered analysis, understanding users, modeling them, and designing structures around the user population. And then we have the design class. And that's the core of how you do layout and wording and color and highlighting and control selection and all that good stuff about creating anything. Now, yeah, we concentrate on web pages, we concentrate on mobile apps, and we're starting to put things in about voice interfaces and so on. But really, that understanding is going to work no matter what you're doing. Whether you're doing Internet of Things or space stations in the future, that modeling of optimizing visual, intellectual, memory, and motor activity is what you need to have a handle on. And then finally, in the CUA training, there's 2 days on how to do a usability test. And a usability test is the core of how you make sure that your design is good. It's also the way that we fine-tune a design. Have you ever gone to a dentist and they drill your teeth, and then they have a piece of like carbon paper and you grind on it and they can see where the tooth is hitting? Well, that's what a usability test is. We have people go through doing a set of tasks, and then we see where they get stuck, and then we can fix it, basically. And then there's lots of ways of doing usability tests. Okay, so the CUA training, Certified Usability and Analysts, how do I make something easy for people to use? Now that approach is the core of doing UX work. And that's a professional grade skill set. So you can go out and work in the field with that. But I would say that there's a second set of training that takes it to another level. And that's the Certified User Experience Analyst, CXA, Certified User Experience Analyst, certification and training. And it really represents a change that happened in the field 8-10 years ago. I actually came out and I said, usability is no longer enough. And that was a slogan we had. And the idea of that is making something usable is like, okay, you can get into the store and you can buy something, but will you buy it? That's another question. And so half of it, 5 days of it, is about persuasion engineering. How I use methods of behavioral economics, methods that are specific to influencing customers psychologically. How do I make something compelling so they'll convert? How do I retain customers? Can I make something that people love to use? And it sounds like, oh, that's so sweet. I want to be able to have something people love to use. But it's also science. So we know a lot about how to make something which is fun, how to make something which is attractive, how to make something which people just love. And so there's a technology of how to do all that. And so getting that takes you a level beyond I can make it easy to use, and it takes me to a level where I can make it compelling. Then we take you to another level. If you think about doing UX work, and this is important in your career, UX work has levels of value and skill set. It's a little bit like a doctor or a medical professional, right? So you can have people who just do first aid. You can have people who do, general medicine and emergency medicine. You have brain surgeons. You have researchers. So you have this kind of level of value. And somebody who does first aid is helpful. Somebody who can do surgery can change somebody's life. All are important, but certainly the surgeon gets paid a lot more. Same in the UX field. So if you can make something usable, that's good. The lowest end actually is just running like a usability test. It's like that's okay, you can get work doing that. And if you're just running usability tests, you still want to know about how people function and understanding who users are and segments of users, and you still want to know design. So the whole CUA helps when you're just doing a usability test, but then you should be sad and you should be trying to move up the value chain. So doing usability tests is sort of okay, and evaluation is sort of okay. And then doing design is better. So you might get put into an agile session and you're doing screen design, and that's a little higher value in a way. And then you start doing structural design. That's better still. You're thinking about how to organize, and all that's CUA kind of stuff. And then you go to, all right, now I'm going to start figuring out not just how to structure it and make it work, but how can I compel people? And suddenly the chief marketing officer wants to talk to you. Then there's a level beyond that which is about strategy and innovation, and that's the top of what we do. And when I go in and I'm talking to the C-level folks and I'm meeting with board of directors, it's going to be about strategy or innovation. That's where the highest value in our field is. And the strategy today, like people ask me, why is Apple so successful? I mean, they're worth more than Rhode Island. And it's not because their design is so very wonderful. You've used iTunes. It's not that great. But what you find is that everything fits together. So iTunes fits with iPad, fits with an iPod, fits with Genius Bar, and it all hangs together, has not just the same look, but it all fits together as a practical lifestyle solution, even with little earbuds. And so that's everything today we do almost is like that. Banks are trying to do that. Something like an Uber is like that. Uber is not just an app, right? It's got the driver apps, and it's got the website, and it's got the recruiting and the training, and all these things fit together. So how you do that omnichannel strategy is part of that strategy and innovation course. Innovation is the other thing. You can do innovation going, hey, I have a new cool technology, and that's all right. But our view is that, yeah, you can tell me I have a new technology. I can go try to find somebody who wants to use it. But wouldn't it be cool to go, I'm looking at this customer population, and what is it that would benefit them. And so that's user-centric innovation. And there's a bunch of methods around that. And it's not something like, and I worry there's a program called design thinking. And design thinking is a method of innovation. It's not user-centered design, really. It's an innovation method. And it scares me when people see that because they think, oh, it's just about thinking about design differently. So good user-centered innovation is about properly modeling ecosystems, identifying needs and opportunities, being able to systematically look at that. And the brainstorming is a small part of the process, but being able to go, we have 300 ideas, now how do we pick the ones that are worth going further with? We use a 3-factor analysis to do that. And how can I drive that ahead? So we've got all of that in that strategy class. And to do that, you need to understand things like future modeling and future trends and so on. So megatrends is really cool. And finally, there's 2 days in the CXA program, which is my favorite thing. And that's how to bring UX into a large organization. So a lot of people go, okay, yeah. We're going to bring UX into this bank, and they think, all right, I'll hire some people, that'll be good. Or I'll train some people, that'll be good. And that helps, but the thing is that really there's more to it than that. You need to set up a practice. And so how do you set up that practice? How do you operate in that practice where you're syncing up with other people to create a unified ecosystem solution? What should you be looking for in terms of methods and standards and tools, organizational structures and all of that? So those 2 programs, the CUA program and the CXA program, are designed to give you what you need to know now in order to do that. And we used to always do that in person. And just recently we've realized that the technology is at the point where if we keep the group small enough, we can do it live online, where you're just using a video conferencing system, and so you don't have to travel, but it's same intensive thing with an instructor, all of that. So taking those programs gives you that foundation. After that, sure, it's a lifetime of learning. So you want to go to advanced programs like the conferences. You want to be part of maybe UXPA, the User Experience Professionals Association, or SIG-Chi, the ACM group, the Computer Human Interface Special Interest Group. And I think that's going to give you add-ons to this foundational program. But what people find is having that foundation where you understand the science of UX, you understand the engineering discipline in terms of the practical things you need to know, is the right way to get going. And then you can go out and get work in the field or have people working in the field. And I would say the important thing is with that foundation, you're ready to be effective, but it's good to be in a place where you have mentors, where you have the right infrastructure, and you can climb the ladder of higher and higher value as you get experience. So if you're thinking about the user experience field, it's a great field to be in. And whether it's called customer experience or user experience or human factors engineering, it's a wonderful field. It's exciting. It's secure. And I would recommend it to anybody today. So I'm glad that you're thinking, and thank you for staying with me way beyond the normal 3.5 minutes for a video.